On the ring, two boxers are engaged in combat. Gunwo is one, the other is Win. Win is a top-notch, more experienced senior boxer. Win suffers fatal left hook from Gunwo. Gunwo easily turns out his opponent. Actually, Gunwo is a more hardworking and diligent boxer, which makes him win in every battle he fights. Gunwo sees a drunk man there at the bus stop on his way back home following the game. When the bus arrives, the drunk man tries to board the bus, but the driver demands him to wear a mask first, as the COVID pandemic has hit the nation all over. Starting to quarrel with the driver, the drunk man deviates from his directions. Gunwo, standing nearby, makes the drunk man come out of the bus and then sends him home on foot respectfully. The drunk man even tries to hit Gunwo multiple times, but Gunwo doesn't respond harshly. He just asks him to kindly go home on foot while dodging the assaults. This behavior of Gunwo makes all the passengers happy, and they praise him. This proves that Gunwo is a nice man who knows how to respect others. Gunwo hears his mother chatting on the phone as he gets to his house. She is demanding some more time to pay the rent for her store. This shows that Gunwo and his family are poor, and Gunwo has to do something to support his mother. So, Gunwo takes part in the boxing competition again and reaches the finals with ease. His mother is watching his match on her mobile phone. Gunwo's opponent is Win again, who is proud of his previous experience in boxing. He thinks that he can easily defeat Gunwo, but his coach also cautions him about the left hook of Gunwo. Still, Win doesn't care about the advice of his coach and says that he is the Marine champion of boxing competitions and no one can defeat him. He enters the ring with his pride and imagines that when Gunwo hits him with his left, he will defend it with his arm and use that opportunity to hit Gunwo on the head with his own left hand. However, in reality, when he removes his guard and offers Gunwo the chance to attack him with his left hook, Gunwo takes the opportunity and makes him fall with just one hit. In this way, Gunwo becomes the champion of the competition. Later, Woojin is sitting with his coach, who is also his father. Woojin asks him to go eat a meal with him, but the father refuses because the dining rooms of most restaurants are closed due to COVID-19. The father gives him some money to order food and eat it in his room. When he comes out of the boxing room, he sees Gunwo waiting for him. Gunwo stands up upon seeing him and asks him out for a meal. At first, Woojin refuses his offer, thinking that Gunwo is mocking him, but then he accepts it when he sees that Gunwo's intentions are pure. Woojin is surprised that the left hook of Gunwo can be so strong, whether he is a lefty or not. But Gunwo replies that he is actually a righty and just gets the opportunity to hit with his left hand when it arises. Woojin is more impressed that he was taken down by just one hit of Gunwo's left hand. That is why he offers to treat himself at the restaurant. Gunwo reveals that he does boxing as a part-time hobby because he needs money to support his mother. His age is even 2 years less than Woojin's age, and he also does other part-time gigs like working at a barbecue restaurant. That's the reason Gunwo is good at making the barbecue steaks they're eating at that time. When Woojin sees that Gunwo is better than him in all things, he flexes by mentioning his Marine experience. But Gunwo is also a Marine and even has a higher rank than Woojin. Hearing this, Win stands up by the spirit of the Marine and salutes his senior. Now he is completely impressed by Gunwo, and there seems to be a strong friendship bond between them. Back at the cafe, Gunwo's mother is now requesting the moneylender to give her some more time to pay back the loan. Right then, Gunwo comes there and greets his mom. The mother is proud of her son, as she has seen the whole match on her phone earlier. Gunwo hands over the prize money from that match to his mother and asks her to pay back the loans. The mother initially refuses to take the money, but when Gunwo insists, she takes it and promises that she will return it to him. After that, they both close the cafe and walk towards their home. Gunwo sees a suspicious car there but ignores it for the time being. It's Mr. Kim Myung-gil, who is planning to build a casino and a club near the location of Gunwo's mother's cafe. He is also a loan shark who gives loans to people and then increases the markup so much that poor people have to give collateral. Now he appoints one of his men to con the people of that area by the same method so that he can get a location for his casino and club. The following day, we see Myung-gil start an initiative that supposedly pays off people's debts for less interest than the bank. However, there is fine print stating that the people they are paying money to need to pay an extension fee in exchange for lowered interest. Within 24 hours, they set up a scheme that sets desperate people up for failure. The agents of Kim Myung-gil approach different landowners of the area and propose a loan plan with just a 5% interest rate, while the banks are giving loans at a 7% interest rate. The residents find this deal very attractive, and many of them sign the contract, using their lands as collateral. One of the agents also approaches Gunwo's mother and cons her by offering the greed of a low interest rate. So she also gets into the trap and signs the contract. Meanwhile, COVID is still expanding throughout the nation, and the businesses of the people are being destroyed everywhere. People are forced to take out loans to make ends meet. To make money from the COVID era, Mr. Kim Myung-gil's man is in a meeting with Chairman Hong of the Lil Group to convince him to invest money in Myung-gil's plan. Also, the mayor of the city is involved in the business plan of Mr. Kim Myung-gil. Chairman Hong is hesitant to give his money as he has already given them money, which is still not recovered. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim Myung-gil enters the room and apologizes for his late arrival. He pressures Chairman Hong to sign the contract by threatening him with the mayor's power in his hand. Later, Mr. Kim Myung-gil is seen partying with his partners. They are confident that they will get the money they require from the Lil Group to invest in their business. To make their bond even stronger, the mayor gives a very expensive gift to Kim Myung-gil, hoping that he will benefit a lot in the future. But the whole thing is being recorded by a hidden camera unknown to the mayor. The next day, Gunwo goes to his gym to practice boxing, but the gym is closed due to some positive COVID cases in the previous match. Now he is free for the day, so he calls Win to meet. Win is sleeping in his apartment, so he texts his location to Gunwo and asks him to come over. When Gunwo arrives at the location, he sees a masked person chasing a homeless man. He also runs after them to help the man, but after some distance, he sees the homeless man on the ground with his nose bleeding, and the masked person is running away with something from the man. Gunwo runs after the masked person, who is now hiding behind a wall, and gives a taser to Gunwo when he reaches near the wall. The masked person is actually a girl named Hyunju. She asks Gunwo why he is chasing her and what his relation to the homeless man is. Gunwo replies that he just wants to help the man and has no relation with him. At this, Hyunju reveals that the homeless man is not actually homeless and is just faking it to avoid repaying the loan he took. Saying this, she leaves the place. She returns to a bookshop where her grandpa, Mr. Choi, is talking with a woman. The woman is there to repay the loan she took from Mr. Choi, but he wants her to pay the other loans first and then pay him. Mr. Choi is a nice person who gives loans to people who are having medical emergencies without interest, but Hyunju doesn't like this. She wants him to take appropriate interest from people in return for helping them. Mr. Choi says that he helped a girl who would have died due to cancer if he had not provided money to her, so his money is being spent on good things, and he is satisfied with it. He also asks Hyunju not to involve people in the fight to get the loan money back, just as she did with the homeless man earlier. Mr. Choi is worried about Hyunju's safety, so he calls his old subordinate, Mr. Moon, to send someone as a bodyguard for his granddaughter. Meanwhile, at Gunwo's mother's cafe, a man from Kim Myung-gil comes. His name is Junmin, and he wants the old lady to pay the interest for not paying the extension fee within the due time. Gunwo's mother is confused about what he is talking about because she was not asked to pay any extension fee while signing the contract. She threatens Junmin to call the police if he doesn't leave her cafe. Junmin comes out of the cafe and orders to break the place into pieces. Right then, the mother calls Gunwo and asks him to come to the cafe soon, as some people are destroying their property. Gunwo runs towards the cafe after hearing the distressed voice of his mother. When he reaches the location, he sees that the whole cafe is broken down, and Junmin is teasing his mother. There are a lot of goons in suits with Junmin, so Gunwo has to fight all of them to reach Junmin. He uses his boxing skills to knock down everyone there. He is alone against tens of people, but eventually he succeeds. Junmin is scared by seeing the scene, so he backs off, and Gunwo calls his mother. When Gunwo catches Junmin by the collar and asks him why he is there, Mr. Kim Myung-gil comes from behind and says that his mother took a loan from him and now she is not paying it back. Gunwo demands that they pay for the damage first, and then they will pay back the loan. Mr. Kim Myung-gil smiles and makes his man, In-bam, come ahead. He is a very strong, sturdy man with an evil eye. Gunwo's boxing skills are not useful against him. His punches don't hurt In-bam enough, and In-bam's one hit is enough to knock down Gunwo. Though Gunwo fights with all his might, he is just able to make In-bam bleed a little with all his force. Mr. Kim Myung-gil is impressed by the spirit of Gunwo and offers him to work for Kim Myung-gil, but Gunwo spits in Kim Myung-gil's face in response. This makes Kim Myung-gil angry, so he gives a large cut on Gunwo's face with his knife and threatens to kill his mother if Gunwo tries to call the police. After some time, we see Gunwo's mother in the hospital, worried about her son, and Gunwo is getting stitches on his face. The doctor asks him to get further treatment so that the wound does not leave a scar on his face, but the treatment is costly, so Gunwo denies it. He shows the wound to his friend Win, who asks him to go to the police, but Gunwo remembers the threat of Kim Myung-gil, so he can't go to the police. Win shows him the contract that his mother signed with the agent of Kim Myung-gil. It is written in fine print that if the loan receiver does not pay the extension fees within 24 hours, then the interest rate would increase consistently. Now they are in big trouble, and there is no one who can pay them 100,000 won to repay the loan. To cheer up his friend, Win takes Gunwo out for a good meal. There, Gunwo calls his mother and asks her not to worry about the cafe. He says that he will go and clean the area of the cafe and also manage the money to pay the loan repayment soon. After the call, Gunwo sees Win on the phone, requesting money because he is in dire need of it. Gunwo gets emotional seeing that his friend cares for him so much. Later, they both go to meet a money lender who Win was talking to on the phone. The moneylender is ready to give them the money, but in return wants them to work for him as bloodhounds for 2 years. Both Win and Gunwo are not ready to accept this offer of the moneylender because the work of a bloodhound involves torturing people to force them to repay their loans. Still, they are themselves victims of the situation. Gunwo stands up and asks Win to leave. Win gives back the money and accompanies Gunwo outside. Later, Win calls another of his contacts and explains his situation. That man agrees to give them money, so they rush to him. It is actually Mr. Moon, who is also a senior Marine, and he tells them that he is helping the boys because they are Marines. He mentions Mr. Choi Tan and asks them to meet him. Mr. Choi Tan is a kind person who could lend them money, and in return, they would have to work as bodyguards for his granddaughter. Mr. Moon has already talked about the boys to Mr. Choi through Mr. Oh, who is also an accomplice of Mr. Choi. When Mr. Choi Tan is going somewhere in his car, Mr. Oh shows him the profiles of Gunwo and Win. Mr. Choi likes Gunwo because his body speaks about his diligence in his work, but Gunwo has no experience in the work before. Win has been working with loan sharks earlier, so Mr. Oh suggests that they both be hired, but Mr. Choi asks Mr. Oh to set a meeting with Gunwo alone first, and then they will consider Win later. The following day, both friends come to meet Mr. Choi Tan at a butcher shop. There is a person in a white martial arts dress who lets only Gunwo come inside and stops when there. Once inside, Gunwo greets Mr. Choi and sits with him. On Mr. Choi's question about the wound on Gunwo's face, Gunwo narrates the story of the cafe incident. Mr. Choi says that he was also in that type of business in his past but is not anymore. He offers Gunwo 100,000 won as an advance fee for his work as a bodyguard for the next 2 years. Gunwo can use that money to pay his mother's debt. Hearing this, Gunwo's face brightens and he quickly takes the offer. Outside, Gunwo shares the whole conversation with Win, and they both start jumping with excitement. Back home, they inform Gunwo's mother about the job, and she makes delicious food for them. After some time, they hear a knock at the door, and when Gunwo goes to check, he sees Mr. Oh there. He has come with the money on behalf of Mr. Choi. Gunwo becomes emotional after seeing this and thanks him much. Then he brings the money inside and shows it to his mother and friend. He thanks Win for helping him in this hard time. The following day, they both go to their job at 10 a.m., but there's a problem. Win is not selected for the job. Still, he has come there. He wants to talk to Mr. Choi and convince him to give the job to Win too. Luckily, Mr. Choi is convinced within no time and hires both of them. However, he reveals that they still have to pass an interview with his granddaughter. In that interview, they will have to convince her to keep them as her bodyguards. Gunwo is worried because he has already paid Mr. Choi's money to the money lenders and still, his job is not confirmed yet. But Mr. Choi assures him that they will succeed in the interview. He gives them some money to eat and then waits for his granddaughter. When they are waiting in the bookstore, they find a box on a shelf and are surprised to see that it is full of cash.
There are also money shelves with such boxes in them.
They do their math and speculate that there are billions of won hidden in the bookstore in book covers. Meanwhile, Hyun-ju comes there to meet the boys. At first, Win tries to convince her but fails because Hyun-ju doesn't want any bodyguards for herself. She claims that she can take care of herself and there is no need for bodyguards. Win fails and leaves the room. Seeing this, Gunwo kneels down and pleads that he has taken money from Mr. Choi as repayment for the previous loans, so he needs this job badly. He suggests that she let them work as bodyguards for a month, and if she doesn't like their work, then they will leave the job themselves. Seeing the diligence of Gunwo, Hyun-ju's anger melts, and she takes them to a cafe to eat something. There, she speculates that the wound on Gunwo's face was also given by the money lenders. She is also investigating the loan sharks' evil businesses in her free time. She says that a gang of people steal the IDs of homeless people and then apply for loans using those IDs. Then they take the money, and the poor homeless people become trapped in the debt cycle. She also shows them the picture of Junmin, whom she thinks is the boss of that gang. Gunwo knows him because he was there with Mr. Choi while destroying the cafe of his mother. This makes Hyun-ju interested in the boys. She takes them in her car to investigate more into the matter. She asks them just to follow these gang members and let her know how many homeless people they target in a night. We see 3 people in a salon putting on some fake hair and black makeup to look poor and needy. Then they enter a van and start driving towards a railway station. Hyun-ju, Win, and the boys are also following them. When the gang members enter the railway station, Gunwo and Win follow them. They see that the gang members go to a homeless man and pretend that they are government officials who need to get the needy people registered in a new government scheme. In the scheme, the homeless people will get some food and a monthly stipend. The poor person gets trapped in their plan and gives them his ID. Gunwo and Win are watching the whole scene from behind a wall and informing Hyun-ju about it. After that, the gang members go to the next target, but that man recognizes the gang members and starts yelling to return his ID. They had already tricked him and gotten his ID earlier, so the gang members start beating the poor man. Gunwo wants to help, but Win stops him because Hyun-ju asked them not to engage. When Gunwo sees that the old man is bleeding heavily and his life is at stake, he cannot control himself and engages with the gang members. One of the gangsters, YJ Mayung, is the same fake man whom Hyun-ju was chasing earlier, and Gunwo interrupted. The cap that Hyun-ju was wearing earlier is now on Gunwo's head, and YJ Mayung recognizes it from his memory. For the time being, Gunwo and Win are able to fight with the gang members and make them run from the scene. Then they call an ambulance and shift the poor man to the hospital, saving his life. When they inform Hyun-ju about the incident, she gets angry and asks them to come to work now. She didn't want to engage them because from now on, the gang members will become more conscious of their work. Win again calls her and asks her to meet them just once. She agrees and asks them to come to the bookstore. There, she again shows her anger at both of them for ruining her plan. Win also gets short-tempered and starts arguing with Hyun-ju, but Gunwo comes in between and politely presents his point. He shows his scar mark on his face given by the loan sharks and says that this scar always reminds him that he should be working for those who are getting hurt by these loan sharks. When he saw a poor man getting beaten up by the gangster, he could not stop himself from helping because it was the right thing to do at that time. Saying this, he gives the cap back to Hyun-ju and leaves the job with Gunwoo. He is sure that he will return Mr. Choi's money somehow or other. Then they both come out of the bookstore. The scene makes Hyun-ju and the boys emotional, so she texts them both to come back to work tomorrow morning. Seeing the text, they both become excited and start jumping with joy. On the other hand, Young Mayung informs Junmin about the attack on them. He also mentions that he remembers the cap the attacker was wearing. It was from the old moneylender from whom he took a loan in the past. The following day, Hyun-ju and the boys sit together to discuss what they should do now. Meanwhile, they see some people approaching their bookstore. These are the same men they attacked the previous night. Hyunju quickly shuts down the shop and turns the lights off so the gangsters can't find him. Young Myung is with Junmin to confront the person from whom Young Myung had taken the loan earlier. They kick the shutters of the shops and notice that the bookstore shutter is made of a different material than the others. Later, when Hyunju and the boys sit to figure out how the enemies located their bookstore, Gunwoo recalls Hyunju's cap. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi returns to the bookstore, enters the code to open the shutters, and asks the kids what happened. After learning about Junmin and his gang's involvement, Mr. Choi reprimands Hyunju for indulging in this dirty business. Hyunju explains that she had no other choice but to investigate the matter because this is what Mr. Choi had taught her, to help people. She insists that she is no longer a kid. Gunwoo also shows the scar on his face and justifies that what they are doing isn't wrong. It's a fight for their own rights. After saying this, they all leave the bookstore. Mr. Choi is still worried about the kids, knowing that the people they are up against won't leave them alone. He asks Mr. Oh to investigate further. Outside the bookstore, Hyunju and the boys decide to grab a meal, with Gunwoo treating this time. Their friendship is growing stronger, and now Hyunju is also part of the group. She jokes with them and acts like a friend instead of a boss. At the restaurant, Hyunju reveals that Mr. Choi isn't her real grandfather. She was adopted by him from an orphanage because her real father committed an unthinkable crime. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi receives a call from Mr. Oh, who tells him that Junmin is working for Kim Myung-gil under his loan company, Smile Capital. In a flashback, we see Mr. Choi in his younger days, running a loan company with employees like Kim Myung-gil and Mr. Moon. One night, Mr. Choi received a call from a security guard informing him that two thieves had broken into his office. Mr. Choi rushed there, only to find the thieves looting the safe. He fights with both Young Myung and his accomplice, but Kim Myung-gil appears from behind and stabs Mr. Choi in the back. A brutal fight ensues, and although Mr. Choi is gravely injured, he manages to leave a deep scar on Kim Myung-gil's face. However, Young Myung's accomplice throws Mr. Choi out of the building's window, and they loot the safe and set the office on fire. When they check the window, Mr. Choi's body is nowhere to be found. In the present, Mr. Choi tells Hyunju that he will take care of these scammers from now on, and she doesn't need to worry about them. On the other hand, Kim Myung-gil is about to meet Chairman Hong again. This time, Chairman Hong has brought his cousin, a police officer, with him. Kim Myung-gil, feeling cornered, asks his accomplice, Jang Do, to stay calm. During their meeting, Chairman Hong's cousin, Wang Yong, places handcuffs on the table, threatening to arrest Kim Myung-gil for his illegal business if he ever messes with them again. After they leave, Kim Myung-gil vomits out all the alcohol he drank and instructs Jang Do to capture Chairman Hong. The following day, Chairman Hong is at a car wash when suddenly the shutters close, and he is pulled out of his car by Kim Myung-gil's men. Jang Do arrives and slaps him, threatening him to pay for his insolence. They beat Chairman Hong, force him to drink gasoline, and strip him, making a video of the humiliating scene. The video is sent to Kim Myung-gil, who laughs as he watches it. The next day, Kim Myung-gil takes In-beom to a shipping port where he shows him a container filled with gold. He explains that he learned from Mr. Choi to invest in gold because currencies can lose value. He also tells In-beom that he considers him like a brother and plans to take him overseas after accumulating more wealth. The following day, Hyunju and the boys come up with another plan to catch the scammers red-handed. They plan to follow the van again that picks up people from the salon and drops them at the railway station. However, this time, the enemies are more cautious. They suspect they're being followed. Yang Jangmong leads Gunwoo and Woojin into a closed alley, blocking their escape. Hyunju watches from her car outside and quickly calls her grandfather for help. Mr. Choi contacts his old accomplice, Lee Do-young, for backup. In the alley, a fight breaks out between the boys and the goons. When Gunwoo removes his mask, Junmin recognizes him and panics, immediately informing Kim Myung-gil of Gunwoo's presence. Woojin and Gunwoo fight skillfully, and soon, Hyunju joins them. Together, they overpower the gang. Meanwhile, Kim Myung-gil sends someone to kidnap Gunwoo's mother, but Mr. Choi is one step ahead. He has already deployed his right-hand man, Hang Yong-yong, to protect Gunwoo's mother. Yong skillfully takes out the kidnappers one by one. Yang Jangmong barely escapes with his life, abandoning the hostage. Still, Hang Yong pursues him and slashes his ankles. Lee Do-young arrives at the alley to help the kids, but finds they've already defeated all the enemies. On his way back, a gang member tries to inspect him, but Lee knocks him out cold with a hard blow to the head. Later, Hang Yong and Lee Do-young reunite after many years, and Gunwoo's mother is safe at Mr. Choi's house. Mr. Choi scolds the kids again for acting without his permission and sternly tells them to stay out of this matter. The next day, Kim Myung-gil visits the hospital to see his injured men and learns that the person who beat them is skilled with knives. He suspects it to be Hang Yong, a former accomplice of Mr. Choi. Hang Yong and Lee Do-young discuss that they should have dealt with Kim Myung-gil a long time ago, but refrained from doing so out of respect for Mr. Choi. Kim Myung-gil admits to Junmin that Hang Yong and Lee Do-young were once Mr. Choi's most feared assassins, and now Kim Myung-gil feels truly threatened. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi and his team devise a plan to take down Kim Myung-gil and his goons. Kim Myung-gil is assisted by Jang-do, a retired police officer who is adept at covering up his crimes. Hang Yong is assigned to take down Jang-do, while Lee Do-young is tasked with handling Junmin. They also need to move the cash from the bookstore, and Mr. Oh suggests getting the kids involved. Dong supports the idea, having seen their potential in the alley earlier. As Gunwoo and Woojin enjoy a meal prepared by Gunwoo's mother, Hyunju joins them. During their meal, she receives a message instructing them to move the cash from the store. The trio gets to work, bringing empty boxes and 2 cars to transport the money. Hyunju begins stacking the cash into the boxes. Gunwoo and Woojin go into the basement to bring some trolleys. Right then, the enemies attack them, and Beam goes after the boys in the basement, while Jang-do hits Hyunju from behind, making her unconscious. He then puts handcuffs around her hands. On the other hand, Gunwoo and Woojin are beaten very hard. Gunwoo, already angry, beats them so hard that Woojin has to come and stop him. Beam becomes unconscious, and the boys bind his hands and feet. Meanwhile, Hyunju regains consciousness while Jang-do is carrying her. She slips from his hands and then beats him with her hands cuffed. She then removes her handcuffs and puts them into Jang-do's hand. Hyunju sees him there with a pipe. Hyunju goes to the boys and informs them about the situation. They all bring the trolley to the bookstore and start their work hastily. Meanwhile, Jang-do frees himself and calls Kim Myung-gil, informing him about the whole situation. Kim Myung-gil is infuriated with him for not being able to handle the kids. He asks him to call for more men and handle the matter before even going to the hospital for medical assistance. In the meantime, the kids have filled all the boxes with the money and transported them to the car. They have also taken the gold stacks and the dollars from the safe. Now they start driving, and the enemies have come there too, so they are being chased on the roads. Hyunju gets rid of one of the cars by hitting it with her own car. She then allows Gunwoo's SUV to come ahead because the real stash of money is present in that car. While fighting with the goons' vehicle, Hyunju's car dies, and they have to run while carrying the bags of gold and remaining cash. But the bags are slowing their pace of running, and the goons are very near to them, so they throw the bags on the road and run to save their lives. They get into Gunwoo's car, who has made space for them by removing some of the cash bags, and then he carries his friends away. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi is informed that the kids were attacked by the goons and that they have also failed to recover some of the money. But Mr. Choi is more concerned about the safety of the kids instead of his money. When Hyunju comes to meet him, he only asks if she is hurt. Luckily, Hyunju and the boys are all okay. Back in the bookstore basement, Beam succeeds in freeing himself. Then Kim Myung-gil's men take him to the hospital, and Lee Do-young is keeping an eye on him on the order of Mr. Choi. Kim Myung-gil knows the intentions of Mr. Choi for leaving Beam alive. He asks his men to stay vigilant of any activity of their enemies. The following day, Mr. Choi tells Gunwoo that he has done a huge favor by recovering so much money from the bookstore. That's why he is going to free Gunwoo from the payment of his debt. He is grateful to Gunwoo for bringing a smile to the face of Hyunju and also wants him to stay with Hyunju in the future. Then Hang Yong makes a delicious pork bite for the kids with his magical hands. Lee Dong also comes there and tells the kids that Han Yongyang is also a senior Marine. Wu Jin salutes his senior Marine, and then they discuss the next plan to take down the whole group of Kim Myung-gil. The boys are going with Han Yongyang to kill Jang-du, so he is training the boys how to use the knife along with their boxing skills. Hyun-ju is going with Lee Dong, and he is training her how to knock down a person while riding the bike at night. Lee Duong and Hyun-ju wait for Junmin to come to the parking area. When he comes, Duong flashes his bike light on the face of Junmin and then cuts his throat with a knife while riding the bike. Suddenly, a car comes and hits Dong. As if they know that Dong will come to kill Junmin, they start beating Dong, and then Hyun-ju comes for help. She beats the goons and frees Dong from their grip. On the other hand, Han Yongyang has gone with the boys to kidnap Jang-du. When Jang-du is taking the lift to the hospital to bring something to eat for his men, Han Yongyang and the boys take the stairs and reach there before the lift doors open. They attack Jang-du and take him with them. One of the gang members has seen them, so the boys also handle him. Back at the house, Mr. Choi gets the message that Jang-du has been captured. Mr. Choi starts traveling toward the location where his men are keeping Jang-du. He calls Han Yongyang and asks him to get Jang-du ready for questioning. He also mentions to let the kids watch the torture of Jang-du. They prepare some salty water and then burn the skin of Jang-du on the thigh area. Han Yongyang takes some salt water and pours it on the burnt area of Jang-du. Then they do the same with the other thigh. Hyun-ju could not bear the scene, so she goes out and vomits. Right then, Mr. Choi comes there and tells Hyun-ju that there are still many things to be learned. When Mr. Choi sits in front of Jang-du, he already knows his weaknesses and how to get him to talk. Mr. Choi knows that Jang-du was planning to leave Kim Myung-gil at the right time, and for that he was accumulating some wealth. So Mr. Choi offers him a handsome amount of money and a house at a place that Kim Myung-gil would never be able to reach. In return, he wants to know about all the secrets of Kim Myung-gil. Sang-du agrees, and Dong brings out his cell phone to record everything. Dong says that Kim Myung-gil is a loan shark who has been conning people who took loans from Mr. Choi. Kim Myung-gil used to go to those people and ask them to give an extension fee. Otherwise, their collaterals would be taken away. Though Mr. Choi gives the loan at 0 interest rate, Kim Myung-gil takes advantage of the opportunity and makes money. He also has many explicit videos of influential people and businesspersons in the city, which he uses to blackmail them. For example, he is blackmailing Lil Group's chairman Hong, forcing him to invest in the casino and the nightclub that Kim Myung-gil is going to open soon. Kim Myung-gil's gold is placed at an unknown location, where only he and Beam go. He thinks more of Beam than his brother, so all his secrets are within Beam. Meanwhile, Chairman Hong meets Kim Myung-gil again, and Hong's cousin is on the phone call listening to their conversation. But Kim Myung-gil gets to know about the call and beats Hong for doing this. Then he forces Chairman Hong, through his cousin's influence at the police department, to find 2 bikers who killed Junmin earlier. He gives them 5 hours of time, and if they're late, he's going to upload a video of Chairman Hong on social media. Meanwhile, our boys are going with their seniors in a car when they receive an invitation from Mr. Choi for drinks at his house. His mood seems to be very good, and that's why he is giving this treat. It's because Mr. Choi and Hyun-ju are again close to each other. They make a plan to go to Rome once everything ends for good. At Mr. Choi's house, they enjoy the drinks and Woo Jin cracks some jokes. They enjoy quality time there. Then Han Yongyang and Lee Duong sit together after the party, discussing their previous lives. Right then, Duong receives a call from his wife. He is going to be a father soon, and he has been hiding all this from Han Yongyang and Mr. Choi. Now Han Yongyang asks him to go home and spend time with his family. He even gives him some money and books a cab for him. After that, we see Chairman Hong's cousin has found the location of those bikers where they stopped. After the parking area is seen, Kim Myung-gil gets all his men ready and leaves for that location. Though the location is empty, he finds the address of Lee Duong there by seeing the footsteps on the ground in salt water. They speculate that Jang-du was tortured there and has already opened his mouth against Kim Myung-gil. So now they go to the address of Lee Duong and knock at the door. When Duong's wife comes to open the door, Duong stops her. He looks through the peephole and the window and suspects something is wrong. So he makes his wife sit in a room and locks the door. Then he puts the fridge in front of the door so that the goons would face some resistance while entering. The men break the windows and come inside. Duong fights very well until the last breath of his life. Mr. Choi, in the end, asks him to give the location of Han Yong-yang to save his wife. Then we see Mr. Choi enjoying breakfast with the boys and Hyunju. The breakfast is prepared by Gonwoo's mother and is very delicious. Mr. Choi wants Gonwoo's mother to make food at his orphanage for the children. So after some time, Gonwoo and Hyunju go to drop his mother at the orphanage, leaving Woojin and Mr. Choi alone at home. Meanwhile, Kim Myung-gil has reached the shop of Han Yong-yang, who speculates that Kim Myung-gil has killed Dong and his wife to reach this location. Myung-gil confirms this, and they start fighting. Though Han Yong-yang is good with knives, Myung-gil is wearing shoes with blades at the front. He injures the legs of Han Yong-yang at the start and then stabs him with his own knife. After killing Han Yong-yang, he goes with his men to the house of Mr. Choi. Woojin has felt the disturbance in the house, so he informs Mr. Choi about potential danger. Mr. Choi quickly goes into the basement and starts loading his gun with bullets. In the meantime, Woojin alone is fighting with the goons of Kim Myung-gil. Mr. Choi also takes down several of them with his gun. Unfortunately, Woojin is stabbed badly in his abdomen, so he is lying injured on the first floor. Also, when Mr. Choi is reloading the gun, Myung-gil attacks him and throws him to the ground with full force. Kim Myung-gil comes there and says that he has learned a lot from Mr. Choi, so he will give him a painless death. Saying this, he cuts the throat of Mr. Choi with his knife. Then he takes all the cash and gold from the safe and sets the house on fire. After they have left, Gonwoo and Hyunju come back there. They see that Woojin is in very bad condition, so Gonwoo takes him to the hospital. But Mr. Choi is already dead, so Gonwoo and Hyunju only manage to escape from there because the fire is converting the whole house into ashes. At the hospital, Woojin's condition is pretty bad due to a huge blood loss. Gonwoo gives his blood to save Woojin's life. Hyunju is also in shock due to the death of her grandfather, and she leaves the hospital without saying anything. After some time, doctors inform them that Woojin's operation was successful and he is out of danger. Now, after some days, we see Woojin and Gonwoo wake up at an apartment in a very remote area. They start jogging around the coast and reach a gym where they start exercising and lifting weights. It looks like they are preparing for their next boxing championship. Mr. Oh is also there. They have been living with Mr. Oh for all this time. Now, when they have fully recovered from their injuries, they ask him to let them go and take revenge on Kim Myung-gil. Mr. Oh is not ready to allow them to go. They are just kids. The boys try to convince Mr. Oh by saying that they have a plan. This time, they will go to the victims of Kim Myung-gil's evil business and ask them to join hands for revenge on Kim Myung-gil. But still, Mr. Oh is persistent in his stance and does not let them go. The following day, Mr. Oh goes to visit the memorial of Mr. Choi and sees a letter there. It's from Hyunju, who has mentioned that she is going to Rome because she is unable to forget Grandpa by living near this area. Mr. Oh comes back home with a change of mind. He calls for the boys and gives them a bag full of money. He has also arranged an apartment for their living in the city and a car for travel. He asks them to go and take revenge on Kim Myung-gil. The boys travel by bus and reach the apartment arranged by Mr. Oh. There, they meet two men. One is the granddaughter of Mr. Oh, who will be living next to them. Then our boys sit down to make a plan. At first, they go to see other moneylenders who are conned by Kim Myung-gil, but they face rejection there because no one wants to be involved with Kim Myung-gil. They could make more money, which had been stolen from them, but Kim Myung-gil would kill them if they stand against him. So everyone fears him. After that, they go to meet Mr. Moon, who is in pretty bad condition. He was also scammed by the loan sharks, and when he tried to stand against them, he was beaten badly. Then the boys go and kidnap Yang Jae-myung. They force him to speak about the illegal business of Kim Myung-gil. To their surprise, Yang Jae-myung cooperates well with them. He mentions the illicit videos of businessmen that Kim Myung-gil keeps on his phone. He also tells them about the recent victim of the illicit video, Chairman Hong. Back at the apartment, they search for Chairman Hong on the computer of Damon. They send Chairman Hong a friend request on the social media app, and suddenly, Damon comes there and stops them from using her computer. Meanwhile, Chairman Hong meets Kim Myung-gil because he still has not provided the investment for the casino and the nightclub. Chairman Hong says that his father is not willing to give the money to Kim Myung-gil, and that's why it is taking so long. Kim Myung-gil doesn't want to hear the excuses, so he signals Beam, who threatens Chairman Hong to throw him off the high-rise building. Chairman Hong then agrees to convince his father this time. Back in his car, Chairman Hong starts crying about his bad luck. He has been traumatized for so many days. Suddenly, he receives messages on his phone, asking him to meet the senders if he wants to get rid of Kim Myung-gil. Chairman Hong discusses the matter with his cousin and arranges the meeting. Again, at the drinking session, they ask Gon-woo and Woo-jin to drink with them so that they can discuss everything openly. But Woo-jin was stabbed by Kim Myung-gil's men, and his liver was damaged, which is why he can't drink. Gon-woo doesn't drink from the start. Hearing this, Chairman Hong says that they will not be able to talk. So, Gon-woo decides to drink this time only. He pours glass after glass into his gut, surprising everyone there. Soon, Chairman Hong and his cousin, Gang-yong, get totally drunk and start spilling out their secrets. In the morning, they wake up in their own house and find Gon-woo and Woo-jin already there. They had brought them there in the night for more drinking, but they don't remember that. Now, the boys have prepared noodle soup for them to end the hangover effect. After that, Gang-yong brings the boys to his office, where they meet two other police officers. They're going to work as a team to capture Kim Myung-gil. This time, they have to first get evidence against him, and for that, they have to get access to his mobile phone. Now, there are two ways to get access to Myung-gil's phone. One is to make him scan a tampered QR code with his phone, and the other is to connect his phone through a Wi-Fi router. They don't want to miss any chance, so they're going to try both. They install cameras all over the building and call Kim Myung-gil for a final meeting where Chairman Hong is going to sign the contract. When Myung-gil comes there and scans the QR code to enter the building, the police get connected to his phone. But to their surprise, there is no data on that phone that can be used as evidence. In the meeting room, Chairman Hong is still not confident and is traumatized by the thought of the deal with Kim Myung-gil. Through the camera, Gang-yong sees that Kim Myung-gil has another phone in his bag. Now, they have to make that phone connect with their Wi-Fi router. Chairman Hong came out of the building to ask whether they were successful in getting the data or not. Gang-yong tells him that they have not succeeded yet, but have another plan in mind. For that, Chairman Hong has to be confident this time. Gang-yong motivates him and sends him again to the meeting room. Inside, Chairman Hong asks the lawyers to go outside as he wants to talk to Kim Myung-gil in private. He wants Myung-gil to delete his illicit video first before signing the contract. He also mentions that he will delete the video because he doesn't trust Kim Myung-gil. Chairman Hong comes with confidence this time and succeeds in getting the mobile from Kim Myung-gil. He quickly connects the phone to the Wi-Fi router, giving access to his team outside. Then, on the order of Gang-yong, the police officers delete all the data from the mobile. When Kim Myung-gil comes back home in a happy mood because they have signed a big contract that day, he smells something inside his room. He opens the safe and sees that his phone has been completely burnt. He understands that it was done by Chairman Hong and his accomplices. Kim Myung-gil then takes out the phone of Mr. Choi, as he has kept all the phones of his victims in a drawer. He asks someone on the phone to recover the location of Mr. Oh from the phone he is sending to him. It is another police officer at the police headquarters who is working with Kim Myung-gil for the money. When his senior, Gang-yong, tells him about the videos from the phone of a big loan shark, he even conveys this information to Kim Myung-gil. The following day, Kim Myung-gil sends his men to search for Mr. Oh at the location given by the mole police officer. On the other hand, Gon-woo and Woo-jin get the full information about Inbam from Yang Jae-myung by giving him a bribe. Back at the apartment, when they're searching into Inbam, they receive a call from an unknown number. Damon takes the call, and the caller informs them to come to a designated location to save Mr. Oh, as Mr. Oh is the grandfather of Damon. She also gets ready to go with the boys. She is an expert in using the compound bow and even shows it to the boys to convince them of her capability. The boys also call Mr. Moon to come and help them in the matter, because Mr. Moon had also been working with Mr. Oh. At the designated location, they don't find Mr. Oh but encounter the goons of Kim Myung-gil along with Inbam. They have been framed to come there because Kim Myung-gil wants them dead. But our boys are better than before, as their fighting skills and stamina have improved after the training. They also have help in the form of Damon and Mr. Moon. They take down all the goons one by one with ease. Mr. Moon fights with one of the main gangsters, the judge, who is trying to run from that place. Ganwoo takes down Inbam very easily this time. After that, they torture Yang to get the location of Mr. O. They then ask Mr. Moon to make Inbam open his mouth. While the boys and the men are going to save Mr. O, they inform about the location to Bang Young, who asks them to wait for the police. But the mole in the department conveys the information to Kim Myung-gil that the police are coming, so Kim Myung-gil orders his men to shift Mr. O from there before the police reach. When the police come to the place, they find nothing. In the meantime, Mr. Moon is torturing Inbam to open his mouth, but Inbam even cuts his own tongue, so they have to lead him for medical assistance. The following day, when Gangyong goes to get some coffee from the shop, the person there mixes some poison in it on the order of Kim Myung-gil. Gangyong quickly senses that something is wrong, so he goes to a nearby shop and demands some salt. He uses the salt to vomit out the poison from his stomach. The other two police officers who helped Gangyong in getting the evidence against Kim Myung-gil were also killed. Meanwhile, Ganwoo and Woojin receive a call from Kim Myung-gil to come to a location to save Mr. O. He stops them from calling the police this time, otherwise Mr. O would not survive. Damon is also there and is willing to go without the police. After reaching the location, Ganwoo and Woojin enter the building, and Damon is asked to come later. As expected, the men of Kim Myung-gil start an attack on the boys, but they fight them off, and no one is able to kill them. Kim Myung-gil puts a knife at the throat of Mr. O and asks the boys to stop fighting, otherwise he will kill the old man. Right then, Damon comes and puts an arrow straight into the arm of Myung-gil, who somehow manages to run off from that place. The boys and Damon save Mr. O, and the police also reach the location. They arrest all the goons and find substantial evidence to get a warrant for a raid at the house of Kim Myung-gil. There, they find the phones of all the dead or missing persons, which is another great piece of evidence against Kim Myung-gil. Now, his days out of prison have ended. Also, the mole police officer in the department is arrested. But still, Chairman Hong is worried because Kim Myung-gil still has his video in the backup of his laptop. Ganwoo and Woojin are present there and promise to find Kim Myung-gil as soon as possible. They again meet Yang Jae-myung to know the location of Myung-gil's hideouts, but he says that Jang-do can provide such information. The following day, they talk with Jang-do, who demands a huge sum of money in exchange for helping them. The boys arrange the money from Chairman Hong and get the exit plan of Kim Myung-gil from Jang-do. Kim Myung-gil is going overseas on a cargo ship. Jang-do even tells them the number of the container in which they are leaving. Now, the boys have to board that ship. They farewell Mr. O and Damon and then go towards the coast. Once on the ship, they find the men of Kim Myung-gil there and start knocking them down one by one. In the end, Ganwoo fights with Kim Myung-gil and overpowers him for some time. They also get all the gold of Kim Myung-gil in that container. Chairman Hong makes the necessary arrangements to arrest Kim Myung-gil, and he also retrieves his video. Finally, the gold is going to be used to build a hospital as charity work according to the wish of Mr. Choi. Chairman Hong takes responsibility for the hospital and gives 2 gold bricks to Ganwoo and Woojin. Finally, Ganwoo goes with Woojin and meets his mother, who was at the orphanage house at the time.